Hi there, my name's Lynn Smith and welcome to Module 2 of the Cupid's Bow Technique. What I've got for you today is really exciting stuff. I'm going to get into the really meaty parts of the technique now in Module 2. So coming up, we've got the principles of the Cupid's Bow Technique. I'm also going to be discussing why men are like Cupid's bowstring within that whole metaphor of the Cupid's Bow Technique. The secrets that are going to make him fall deeply in love and commit to you for life. Within that, there is the dance of love and how you can dare to be a moving target. I'm also going to explain why the Cupid's Bow Technique is, from some people's perception, quite emotive. So there's that coming up as well as lots of information about how we can understand men more as women. How you can increase your value in the mind of a man. The 3 A's, I'll explain what they are and go into those in a bit more detail. And also the option of why it's important to either be a moving target within your relationship or live a life of what ifs, you know, what I perceive as a choice of either having it all or having regrets, basically. So that's coming up as well in this module. I want you to realize that the Cupid's Bow Technique is a technique that's going to have in cherishing you a lot more as a result of you implementing these skills. And it is all about learning to use your feminine power and have it operating at its highest level and at its very best. And lastly, I'm going to be covering some reasons why men pull away, because I think that is a big concern for women, and it's also something that can easily be resolved as well. Okay, so let's get stuck in. I'm going to just share my screen now so you can see my PowerPoint. So just give me a couple of minutes, or a couple of seconds I should say, to do that. All right, so the Cupid's Bow Technique Module 2, presented by myself, Lynn Smith, the Queen of Hearts. Before we actually get into the content of Module 2, I just want to summarize what you've already done and what you've already completed as a result of going through Module 1. In Module 1, we went through the reason why most women struggle in their relationships. I also demonstrated the difference between masculine and feminine energy and how we can use polarization to create a really strong high level of passion and commitment within our relationships. I also discussed the difference between being a hopeful searcher versus a strategic thinker. We also went through what the 5 truths were about why you don't have the relationship you currently want. The importance of creating your own vision, also creating a healthy mindset, and what beliefs you might currently have that may be sabotaging your results or sabotaging your current vision for what you really want in your relationship. The importance of your well-being, and also touched on the 3 C's as well. So that was all in Module 1. Now, having listened to Module 1, the question I want to ask you is, have you completed all the exercises from Module 1? If not, it's vitally important to get those done before moving on to Module 2. It's all about you achieving the best results as far as I'm concerned as the coach. I don't want you to just achieve mediocre results or okay results. I want you to achieve phenomenal results. So it's very important that if you want to achieve those phenomenal or even outstanding results, you fully commit to participating and doing what has been presented to you in the modules. It's all around taking the actions that you need to take or make to achieve those outstanding results. So make appointments to yourself to schedule me time within these modules to get those actions done. And remember, your relationship success depends on investing time and energy to create those solid foundations and to enable you to implement these new empowering behaviors as well. So now moving on to our next slide, I want to talk about what breakthroughs you've had since completing Module 1. I just want you to take a few seconds or a few minutes if needs be to think about what breakthroughs were apparent, or have you had hindsight around or more awareness around since you completed Module 1? Or did anything prevent you initially from taking any action? And if so, what do you think the underlying fear was around that? And then the natural question that sort of follows on from that is, where else do you think you let this fear run your life? And these will be common questions that will run through the whole thread of the whole course, because it's important that you gain awareness as to what comes up for you as well whilst we run through all this training. And by being aware of what fears might be getting in the way of you achieving the results that you really want, that's halfway to solving the actual problem. Right, let's move on to Module 2 then, and the actual Cupid's bow technique principles. So coming up in this module, the first section is around understanding the principle of the Cupid's bow technique. So here's a great metaphor. Imagine Cupid represents your man, and the speed and strength of his love arrow represents the power and intensity of his commitment, passion, and deep desire for you. Your heart is the moving target that Cupid, your man in this case, wants to hit with his love arrow. Now imagine that Cupid's bowstring is not stretched tight. What would happen? The power of the love arrow would be weak, and so would his commitment, passion, and deep desire. So anytime you feel that you're not getting the deep love, commitment, and passion that you want in your relationship, it means that the Cupid's bowstring needs to be stretched. Now, if you think about it, what would happen if your heart, in this case, if your heart represented the moving target, caused Cupid to pull back his love arrow so that his bowstring is stretched fully taut? When the love arrow is released, what would happen then? The power of the love arrow would be so strong, and so would his commitment, passion, and deep desire for you. And that's what the Cupid's bow technique is all about. It's helping him draw his own internal love arrow back to create the pull of polarization before the love arrow is then released. To create the pull of polarization, his Cupid's bowstring has to be stretched tight. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Okay. So, what women should know. Men are like Cupid's bowstring. Men will alternate between deep intimacy and needing some space and freedom to be autonomous or independent. And this is all part and parcel of his natural love and connection rhythm. Every woman should know that at these times it's important not to blame yourself or think you've done anything wrong. It's a common response to try and get close again, but all you'll do is cause his Cupid's bowstring to slacken, and he'll feel the need to pull away even more. And these are the periods when a man subconsciously takes responsibility for his own happiness and well-being. And it doesn't mean he doesn't love you. So it's important to give him his man time, or let him go to his cave without freaking out, without feeling hurt or resentful. I don't want you to ever concern yourself with how often this happens in your relationship. Cupid has many strings to his bow and enough love arrows to last more than a lifetime. So don't begrudge him his man time. or it's time out from the relationship, because the bowstring will be getting stretched tighter, and that can only be good news for you. And the good news is that there is another love arrow waiting, ready to be stretched, ready to be fired. And this is not to be confused with the times when we can cause a man to distance himself and pull away because of a misunderstanding in how we create intimacy, such as when we engage in the 3 C's, which I'll discuss more later on in a bit more depth as well. Even when there isn't hurt or misunderstanding, it's also important to remember that it's natural for a man who is in love to feel the need to pull away emotionally occasionally. It's actually ingrained in his DNA and part of his masculine identity. He'll have the urge now and again to stretch his Cupid's bowstring himself before letting go and firing another firing another love arrow of passion and deep desire into your heart. So, moving on. What are the primal secrets that make him fall deeply in love and want to commit to you? Now, this is a wise woman's best kept secret. Many men may never tell you this, but they love it when you drive them mad with desire. Men come alive when they feel crazy with passion and yearn for a woman who playfully teases them and stimulates their attention. The most effective way to get a man to fall deeply in love and commit to you is to do less, not more. Here, you will discover how to use the power of polarization with the Cupid's bow technique and have your heart be a moving target. Men love a challenge and they love to pursue. It's in their masculine DNA. Does being a moving target increase the pull and intensity towards you? Yes, too right it does. For example, many of us have lost a love in our past who we remember. And one reason why we remember him is because we don't have him anymore. His heart was a moving target that your Cupid's love arrow never quite hit, which affected how much you thought about him and also how much you wanted him. And it felt powerful. Being in love is a delight when it feels powerful. And that's exactly what happens when your heart is a moving target. You stimulate a powerful attraction in the man you want. So let's just move on to our next slide. The dance of love and daring to be a moving target. So is love like a dance? Well, the answer is yes, exactly right. If you want a man to be mad with desire for you, then you need to get very, very good at being a moving target within the dance of love. You do that by following the secrets that have been passed down by wise women since the Stone Age. Dare to be a moving target. If you're afraid or have a lack mentality when it comes to getting what you want, then the Cupid's bow technique is not for you. This is why I got you to do all those exercises in module 1, so that you had got a great mindset coming into module 2, or a greater mindset that is more positive and empowering. If you approach love with a begrudging or resentful attitude, then the Cupid's bow technique is not for you. So again, you know, those exercises around beliefs in module 1 are all coming into play now to bring you into this module in a far better state of mind and a far better platform to now embrace what's coming next. So if you want to discover the primal truths of what drive our relationship, and you want to discover what causes a man to fall deeply in love and commit to you, then these really valuable, tried and tested secrets can change your whole relationship status. It's going to move on to now discussing why some people's perceptions of the Cupid's bow technique is emotive. Well, there are arguments around the perception of whether it's necessary to use this strategy, and here are a couple. Some women argue, you know, they might say, oh, I don't have the inclination to bother with how I'm viewed by men. But what I say in response to that is, most worthwhile results require some effort and focus. And then you'll get some other women say, well, if I have a great guy, I shouldn't need to use a strategy. And my response to that is, strong, confident, great men love a challenge. When they fall deeply in love and commit to you, they'll adore you all the more because you are a moving target and understood his primal need to pursue. And other women say, well, I don't like the whole idea of using a strategy. And my response to that is, what are the other options? Being a one-night stand, a quick fling, friends with benefits, or stuck in an unfulfilling relationship? Is this really what you want? So let's move on now to the question of understanding men. And what men really want is not the same as what they say they want. So let me explain a bit more about that. Men don't always know what they really want, bless them, until they meet a woman who blows their mind and shakes up their world. Men want to be our heroes, and remember, they love a challenge. They want to feel like they've swum shark-infested waters, slain a dragon, and climbed mountains to capture their woman's heart. If he didn't have a moving target or some other obstacle in the way, you'd actually be denying him the opportunity to feel chivalrous and proud of himself for all his effort. Men actually love climbing mountains for a woman. There is no greater feeling for a man than capturing the heart of a woman who is tough to win. So I'm trusting by now that you're getting on board with the idea here. He has to feel he's earned the right to be with you. In fact, a man will back away from a woman who falls for them before he feels he deserves it, believe it or not. Just take a quick sip of water here. Okay. Now, let's move on to the next bit. 3 very important areas which influence your value in a man's mind. So number 1 is how you treat yourself and take care of your own well-being, which we've already covered in module 1. The 3 A's, and the 3 A's are how available and attainable you are to him, as well as how accommodating are you. How strong are your boundaries and what standards do you set yourself? Now, I want to go into this in a little bit more depth. So when we think about how available, attainable, or accommodating are you, a lot of women get the false idea around what I mean by this. So let me just explain. The opposite of a moving target is an easy target. In the past, have you ever been too dependent on him and made him your whole world? Have you ever acted insecure around him or been too clingy or needy? Have you ever changed your routines or schedules to be aligned with his? Or tried to prove yourself and then felt used? Or even let him speak to you or behave around you in ways that made you feel a bit uncomfortable? Or have you ever been too keen or pointed out your faults to him or pushed the relationship forward too soon? If you have, then this is all position 3 and 4 behavior on the polarization chart and tables that were at the end of module 1 that you've just completed. And a wise woman is never desperate. She knows how to say no, or that she feels uncomfortable. And I have to be honest, I've certainly been guilty of being an easy target in my past relationships. Some women, in fact, I think a lot of us, or most of us can relate to this, get too involved and emotionally invested in their man too soon, which means that she'll unconsciously expect a return on her investment. And if she doesn't get an equal or any return, she'll unconsciously react and in the process continue to keep investing even more and more in the hope of getting something back. And unfortunately, a man's primal natural instinct is to start backing away from a woman when the bowstring has slackened, when he realizes that she is more emotionally invested before he is. And the result is he pulls away. And then what happens? She panics, and keeps moving towards him, and then she ends up with a broken heart. And this situation can happen at any time in a relationship. It could happen in the early weeks, middle or latter years of your relationship. It doesn't really make any difference. It holds true for every interaction you have with a man. So how do you avoid a broken heart? Well, the answer is easy. Your investment in him has to be equal or less than his investment in you. So how do you do that? You do that by being a moving target. In other words, you do something that causes him to stretch his Cupid's bowstring. When you stretch his Cupid's bowstring, you create a space for him to invest in the relationship just as much as you, or more. Being a moving target means you're stepping into your feminine power. You've defied the odds and you've massively increased your chances of getting a lasting, committed soulmate relationship. I want you to trust what's been passed down by generations of wise women. There is a reason why being a moving target has stood the test of time. The strategy of using polarization by being a moving target is all about discovering your feminine power and valuing yourself as being worthy and deserving of the best of relationships. I want you to trust in this method and allow your natural, perfect feminine self to emerge. Now, we've already previously in Module 1 looked at your vision, your mindset, your beliefs, and how you can take responsibility for your own happiness. The Cupid's bow technique is not going to work if you're in a desperate or needy state. So if that is currently where you're at, probably need to do some more work and go back to Module 1 and really get down to doing and revisiting some of those exercises again. And the Cupid's bow technique is not for the wishy-washy when it comes to creating powerful, lasting passion, commitment, and deep love. So it really is vital that you do the previous exercises to prepare the groundwork so that your future relationship can be built on solid foundations. I know I keep repeating myself around that, but it is because it's so important, and I want you to achieve, as I say, not just okay results, but outstanding results. And relationships are at their best when they are playful and fun, and the most sensual dance of love ever is what's encompassed in this technique. So I want you to embrace being a moving target and have the heart of your beloved pounding with desire and passion in the dance of love. Now, some women challenge me on this and say, isn't this being devious? Because they're actually against the idea of using a strategy. So they say to me, well, isn't it a bit manipulative? Isn't it game playing? Isn't it being dishonest? And I say, no, actually, you know, these are all false beliefs about the Cupid bow technique. What those women are really scared of when they ask those questions is that by implementing this strategy, you'll have the edge over them. Well, you will, but there's nothing unfair about that. Anyone can take advantage and use this technique, but unfortunately some never do. Some people may call it game playing, but you can call it discovering your natural feminine power in the dance of love. So that you can have the deep love and commitment you want by implementing this polarization strategy. Or the alternative is to feel alone, unfulfilled, and live a life of what ifs. You can't dance without movement. Be a moving target in the dance of love. I'm sorry, I've just moved on a bit too far there. So let me just go back and get my, that's it. Sorry about that. So let me talk a little bit more about moving target or living a life of what ifs. Well, you wouldn't read a romance novel or watch a chick flick with a poor, dull, or uninteresting script. In fact, any great love story worth reading or watching has flirting, suspense, excitement, challenges, fun, playfulness, etc. So do you want your own love story to be one that has these great stimulating memories and keeps you both feeling alive and fulfilled? Well, you can. You certainly can, by being a moving target. Have you been the sort of woman a man thinks about day and night, and he's anxious about whether he'll capture your heart? Have you ever felt that from a man? Well, this same man who has previously maybe pulled away from you is more than capable of wanting to commit to a woman who makes him feel a compulsive urge to win her over. This even happens to men who often perceive themselves as being afraid to fall deeply in love. We all know and have met some of those, I'm sure, in our past. We've all seen it. You know, a special kind of woman comes along, and these men suddenly, inexplicably lose their fear of falling in love because they're so busy pursuing this woman with a relentless, single-minded focus. So, how do you become that special kind of wise woman in your man's world? The Cupid's bow technique is exclusively for women who want to be that special kind of wise woman. This technique is the type that women like to keep to themselves and usually don't broadcast to the world and his dog. They consume the new insights privately and embrace its polarization principles. Let's move on. The Cupid's bow technique will have him cherishing you more. What lets you know that he's deeply in love with you? So what are the sort of things that actually let you know that actually your man really does love you? Well, some of the things that's going to give you those insights are the facts that he contacts you during the day to see if you're okay. His actions show he cares and is being considerate. You'll notice he'll be more protective in social situations. He'll be sure of himself and you, but at the same time, he'll have his eyes mindful and he'll be watchful and keep himself on his toes to see if there's any other men who are checking you out. He'll also let you know that his friends keep telling him to shut up about you because you're all he talks about. He'll be keen to introduce you to his family and friends. So there's some of the indicators that he is deeply in love with you. And you may have experienced some or all of those. But even if you've only experienced one of those, it's certainly an indicator that he does love you. Now, if he's worked hard to earn your heart, he'll really adore you. Humans rarely appreciate anything which is made too easy. We're more likely to desire and attach more worth to something if it's harder to reach, rarer to find, or more difficult to get. Everybody enjoys feeling successful. We love to strive to achieve a worthy goal and ultimately accomplish it. Nobody values what is given to us too freely. We tend to take advantage of it, ignore it, or be indifferent to those things. Being a moving target is about stepping into your feminine power and being true to what drives your basic primal instinct. Now I'm going to talk about using your feminine power is your primal instinct operating at its best. And when we talk about primal instinct, some people are skeptical or even opposed to accepting this truth. Despite the evidence being all around them, they drain themselves battling against believing it. They may as well argue that night doesn't follow day because their disbelief is not going to alter what's real and what's true. If you use your feminine power, you will succeed every time. People flourish when they progress towards a goal. When we invest our resources, effort, and time into something, we prize and value it all the more. The psychology of human nature has always been within our DNA since the Stone Age. Have you ever observed that when something is a challenge or hard to get, you take more notice and desire it? In specific situations, this can be the do I stay or do I go influence. But you have to have the right strategy and guidance from a fellow wise woman. Otherwise, the bowstring will slacken and he'll feel heartbroken, offended, or want to pull away. And then you're the one that will be heartbroken. It's important you understand love is a dance. Intimate relationships are the most sensual dance of love ever created. Being a moving target and, you know, embracing that idea, you'll have the heart of your beloved pounding with desire, passion, and fulfillment in the dance of love. How exciting is that? And finally, I just want to go over some reasons why men pull away. I mentioned earlier that men will alternate between deep intimacy and needing some space and freedom to be autonomous or independent, and that it's all part of his natural primal love and connection rhythm. There are other reasons why men pull away, usually because of a misunderstanding women have in how to create intimacy, most of which comes from a woman's insecurities or fears, such as, well, number one, your well-being cup is running on empty. Make an effort to be your best physically as well as mentally. Being lax, self-critical, or regularly being miserable and depressed is very unattractive, and you're more likely to be so if you're not taking responsibility for your own health and well-being. 2, wanting external positive feedback and reassurance. Wise women never need to seek external feedback and reassurance from anybody. They exude an attitude of inner confidence and they're not bothered what other people think. Love your imperfections. After all, nobody is perfect. Wise women accept themselves and are comfortable with who they are and what they look like. 3, being needy and wanting attention constantly from him. Having that polarization space is extremely important in creating attraction. Wise women never need to solely rely on their man for attention because they make sure they receive an abundance of it from a variety of other people in their life. Number 4, too accessible. If you're too accessible and make it obvious that you'll be at the drop of a hat, then you're making it impossible for him to chase you. Because what it actually means is you're always moving towards him and you're doing the chasing. Number 5, too controlling. Engaging in the 3 C's. The 3 C's being criticizing, complaining, and comparing. What that encompasses is acting superior to him and telling him what to do and how to do it. Talking for him on his behalf, giving him your unsolicited opinions, a disapproving face, or one of your looks or an eye roll. And I don't mean just in jest, I mean, you know, when you're really seriously giving him the eye roll that makes him feel a bit humiliated. Or you're placing unnecessary constraints on his life, for example, not letting him talk to other women or socialize with his friends. Those all come under the umbrella of being too controlling. Number 6, acting jealous. Jealousy is a form of insecurity, and unfortunately, you often can't control this emotion. So if you know that you are the jealous type, do your best to act as though you aren't. Take on the belief that you're not bothered about other women. They are completely irrelevant because you're a wise woman who is valued much more than any of them. If you attracted him in the first place, this will be true. So there's absolutely nothing to feel jealous about. So I want you to really embrace that and believe that. And then 7, infidelity. Well, I think infidelity is self-explanatory, isn't it? I trust you understand, or you would understand, sorry, why a man would pull away if you've ever cheated on him. Now, if you've ever made any of these relationships mistakes, don't worry. they can be erased in his mind by going forward with your newfound awareness and implementing these new moving target behaviors. So your relationship status will become everything you've always craved. So forgive yourself if you have been in this situation where you've implemented some of these behaviors that have caused your man to pull away. But, you know, don't dwell on it. At the end of the day, we've all made those sorts of mistakes, and we haven't always had the awareness to know that these are the things that are causing him to pull away. So don't, as I say, dwell on it too much. Just learn that's what's happened in the past and move on. Okay, so what have we actually covered in this module? We've gone over the Cupid's bow technique principles. We've talked about how men are like Cupid's bowstring. We've talked about the secrets that are going to make him fall deeply in love and commit to you, the dance of love and how you can dare to be a moving target. We've talked about the Cupid's bow technique in some people's perception is quite emotive. We've also discussed how you can understand men and how you can up your value in a man's mind. Also gone through the 3 A's. Just test yourself there, see if you can remember what those 3 A's are. We've talked about the option of either being a moving target or living a life of what ifs. We've gone into a little bit of depth in talking about the Cupid's bow technique will actually have him cherishing you more by you doing less, and how this technique will have you stepping into and being more aware of your feminine power and how that can have you operating at your very best. And then lastly, we've gone through some reasons why men pull away. Okay, so after doing all of that with me today, what do you think have been your aha moments? What do you think you've learned as a result of going through today's module? I just want you to make a note of all the things that have come to your mind as to, you know what, wow, you know what, I wasn't really aware I was doing that before, or I wasn't really aware that men thought that way, or wasn't really aware of, you know, how I can behave differently going forward. Think about what little gems, what little aha moments you've had as a result of going through this module 2 today. Just give you a few seconds to think about that, to make a note of. Or you can even pause the video at this stage. And then lastly, I want you to get excited about what's coming up in module 3. So in module 3, we've got the actual detailed information on how to be a moving target, because we discussed being a moving target, but I've not actually gone into the detail of how you can be a moving target and what attitudes you need to adopt, how you can be less invested in the relationship so you don't come across as being that needy, desperate, insecure woman that maybe some of you have been before, how to be unpredictable. I'm going to talk about his natural love and connection rhythm and how that might affect him and how he behaves. We're also going to be looking at what being a moving target is and isn't, recapping on what the most powerful strategy contained within this course is, and that's all coming up in module 3. So some exciting information coming up in module 3. Recap again module 2. There's quite a lot of information that we've covered in there. If you need to go over it again, you know, this course isn't a race. The more awareness, the more time you can give yourself to become really clear about a lot of the information that's in here and have a good understanding of it, the better your results. So I look forward to speaking to you again in module 3. Enjoy going over the material in module 2 in the meantime, and I'll see you in the next module.